you at, Tristan? Where you at?
Can everybody hear me? Oh, all right, everybody can hear me out there. So, what's up, everybody? Thank you guys all for coming out. It's a great turnout. You know, thank you guys for coming out to the Jordan series. For a few lucky people out here, a custom-built and lasered carbon fiber box will be rewarded for years of loyalty. So,
Yeah.
let's clap that up. Let's clap that up. Now, everybody here, you know, because you're here, I suppose you guys know what Soul Collector is, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Y'all don't know what Soul Collector is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, are you sure? All right, look, all right. In 2003, Soul Collector's first magazine was created, and shortly after that, they began partnering with Jordan. Imagination and innovation in his collaborations with Michael Jordan for the Air Jordan line and Nike. In 1998, Fortune magazine named Tinker one of the 100 most influential designers of the century. So, in addition to working with Michael Jordan each year, Tinker currently creates specialized Nike products for champion athletes, including Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Roger Federer, numerous track and field athletes, and many others. So he also spends most of his time mentoring young Nike designers and helping build the Nike for the next future. So without further ado and without me talking too much, let's bring out Tinker Hatfield.
Wow, it's quite a crowd.
It's crazy out here, right?
You're out here to see Tristan, right?
No.
Yeah, TV stuff.
So, first question for everybody. What is your relationship with Soul Collector?
Well, I've known Steve and Nick, the two. Well, Steve in particular, probably the longest. I've known those guys for a while, and they've been such passionate promoters of sneakerology, not just sneaker collecting, but the whole, I guess, art and science of understanding about design and shoes and personalities and athletes, and so it's been a nice relationship, and it's grown over the years, and they've done such a great job. I don't know if you all read the magazine, but I think it's just the best one out there. It's beautiful. Every issue is just made with care. So we've got a great relationship with those guys. Thank you. Give them a hand. Give Soul Collector a hand. They put a lot of work. I don't think these guys actually sleep at all. I don't think they do.
They didn't look like they slept, especially driving from Portland.
Look at them. They don't look like they slept.
Okay, so how did you get your start with Nike, and what has it been like designing at the brand for 3 decades?
Oh, yeah, I was afraid you were going to bring that up. Well, luckily for me, I grew up in a sports world, a sports background, and I was an athlete, and I went to the University of Oregon and ran track, and that's where Nike started, actually, up in Oregon. And it wasn't just about running or just about track. It was about athletes and sports and then good design. And I went to architecture school along with running track. And it was really an interesting and fortunate combination of backgrounds for me. So I could design, I could draw, and I was an athlete, and I could sit down and talk to other athletes and kind of understand what they were going through, what their needs were. And I guess, unfortunately, I picked up a little bit of style sense along the way. I don't know how, I don't know why, but anyhow, that's really my background. And so when I came to Nike, it was just a perfect match for me, and I've had a great time for a long time.
Wow. Okay. So the Air Max 1 and the 11s are two very, very iconic sneakers that you've made, and they're the inspiration for tonight's shoe. Can you talk about designing the Air Max 1? You know, it was the first Nike shoe with visible air.
Yeah, Tristan, thanks for asking that question, because this is the first time I've ever actually talked about kind of two shoes at once. But let's start with the Air Max 1. Like you said, it was unique in its day because of the visible air window. But more than that, it actually was what I thought a nice step forward for the sneaker business in general, trying to sort of step out of just being normal and being utilitarian and actually bringing something else to the party. So the Air Max, I was working on that, and At the same time, I was working on the Air Max and trying to develop the Air Max window, which I don't know if any of you have heard about the inspiration from the Georges Pompidou Center in Paris. It's a building that was built basically in the 1970s that basically turned itself inside out, and you saw it was the first big building that was all glass, but all the air conditioning and the elevators and the escalators and everything were all on the outside. And it was sort of like just flip-flopping the way you design a building. And I guess I was inspired by that and thought, well, you should actually show the technology in a shoe. And so that's how the window got developed. So that's the first part of your question, right?
And yes. And of course, you know, the 11s, perhaps arguably the most famous Jordan out there of them all. So what inspired you to introduce both patent leather and carbon fiber?
Well, first I was going to mention that the guy who was supposed to design that the very first or the very early very early Air Jordans, I should say, left Nike, and I ended up getting to design Air Jordans from the 3 up until pretty much today, although there have been a few I haven't done. But the 11, actually, of all those shoes, is my favorite one. And the reason I like it the most is partly because it has patent leather and made out of nylon and has a carbon fiber shank and some of those things that had never happened before. But it was also designed, believe it or not, when Michael Jordan was retired. And he kept telling everybody he wasn't going to come back to basketball. And Nike wanted to stop the Jordan line. And they didn't want to do any more Jordans because their thinking was if he wasn't going to play basketball anymore, we wouldn't even be able to sell Jordans. And I disagreed with that. And even though the people higher up than me tried to stop me, I didn't stop. I kept doing it, and I kept working on it.
Yeah.
And thank you. And that's why I like this shoe so much. It was not only innovative because of the carbon fiber, which kind of came from football cleats, you know, both soccer and American football. And then the patent leather was actually an idea of Michael's. He didn't really know about patent leather so much, but he wanted a shoe that was shiny. He actually wanted a shoe that was shiny for about 3 years before that, and I could not really figure out the right kind of material and how to use it, because really every time we do something with one of these shoes, we want them to be performance-oriented first. And that's what helps drive the style. If it works better, it also just tends to look more purposeful and look better. So anyway, that's how the shoe got designed. MJ was all excited when I brought in a sample and it had this patent leather on it. And he said, the first thing he said was that he couldn't get a word out. And and he was like, he was searching for these words, and he goes, the real first sentence he said is that people are going to be wearing these with tuxedos. And I'm going, I didn't believe him. I said, nah. And then about 3 months later, Boyz II Men showed up on the American Music Awards, all wearing Air Jordan 11s with tuxedos. And Michael called me up that night and said, "See, I told you so." And I said, "You probably paid those guys." He said, "No way. No, they did on their own." And so it kind of developed a life of its own, this shoe, because it sort of transcended basketball a little bit and into sort of modern culture and the music industry. And so that's the story of the shoe. It's pretty fun. It's my favorite because of all of those things.
So now, because we've talked about both of those shoes, how did those two shoes smash together to make the Comfort 11s?
I have no idea. Ask Steve. It's his. I think it was his idea. I can't take any credit for the design, the smashing together of these two shoes to create this design, which is actually an accepted way to come up with new ideas, right? Bring two things that are unlikely and put them together in an artful way, and you come up with a new design. I didn't do this work. So I'm just here to take credit. That's all, I guess. But anyway, there's some talented people at Nike and with the Soul Collector guys. I think it was a good idea. Sort of mix it up a little bit. Take two things that are not, again, normally associated with one another and put them together. I should, point out that they were both designed at roughly the same time back in the day. So they do have a connection time-wise, actually, as to
Wow. So, because you worked with Soul Collector and, of course, Nike, but can you tell us a little bit more about the collaboration process between you guys and, some of the inspirations for this particular shoe?
Well, the Soul Collector guys have been great because they're such passionate, again, advocates of good design, sneaker heads to the max, perfectionists, and all of that stuff. And it's been actually sometimes when you sit down and they know more than I do about a shoe that I designed, and it shows that they study they understand the medium that they work in, which is the magazine industry and all of the great photography and the writing, but also they just have this really deep understanding of the actual product itself. And that makes it really fun for me because actually sometimes they'll tell me things about the shoes that I've either forgot or whatever, and so it's been super fun to work with them over the time. And I'm always energized when I'm usually finished talking to especially Nick and Steve. I'm always energized by their passion. Just like here tonight, I still struggle with the fact that people are so interested in the work that I've done over the years. You know what? Thank you for coming. It really gives me a lot of energy. So, yeah, it's very cool.
Okay, so now we're gonna take a few questions from the crowd. So, anybody have any questions for the man, the myth, the legend, Tinker Hatfield?
The IE, I have no idea. And I think I need to follow that up with a description of what I do at Nike. I design shoes. I design shoes for the future. I never work on retros purposefully because I'm supposed to be somebody who's supposed to be always looking forward. And so a lot of times I don't even name the shoes. I just pretty much design the stuff and then I move on. And I'm always kind of going forward. So I don't always even know. Huh? Well, it's kind of a remix. It's kind of a remix with retro stuff. So even though I might work on a project, I don't always do the actual naming of the projects.
Any more questions? Sir?
What can we expect for the Jordan 2011?
2011. Well, that design's been in the can for about 6 months, and we're about halfway through designing the 12 right now. What you should know about Jordans, I mean, when you work on so many different basketball shoes, and I work on Kobe's with some people, and I used to work on LeBron's until this entourage kind of pissed me off, but it's not crazy. But we'll have to have another. That's a whole other thing. LeBron's great, but his entourage. Anyway. The 11s, I think one of the things you should know about Jordans is that as we look at all these performance basketball shoes, and I underline the word performance because they have to work for the best players in the world. In the case of Jordans, of course, Dwayne Wade is going to be one of our main guys going forward. But the idea behind Jordans is to always keep them differentiated from, say, anything else in the Nike line. And what we're going to do is, and the 2011 will hopefully sort of bring that point home, is that we are going to continue to actually sort of draw a little bit from the past with handcrafted, more beautiful materials, and even using stitching more often than say we would in Nike. Nike shoes are going to be more plastic and maybe more sort of futuristic. And Jordans are going to be modern and high-tech and all of that, but they're going to have much more of a hand, much more of a touch, much more of a, gutsy sort of leathery feel, something that I think when you buy them, you should want to take care of them. So that's kind of the Jordan 2011, which I can't describe it too much, or somebody'd really get mad. But it's gonna have there's gonna be a little bit of flavor from the past, and there'll be a little bit of mixing from the future, and it'll all be done in what we're calling a very premium, sort of handcrafted, sort of beautiful style. So I think it'll be very wearable, but you'll also see them in the NBA because they're super light and super high performance too.
Cool.
So,
Any more questions? Sorry.
What's your favorite MJ story?
So, favorite MJ story. Well, some of them can't be told in public. My favorite story is a kind of an emotional one for me because it says a lot about his character, and that is the story. I used to go and hang out at his house and try and understand who he was and his life. And sometimes I'd be there, before basketball games in Chicago, and usually I was with another guy at Nike, fantastic man. His name is Howard White, and he's one of Michael's good buddies, and also kind of a way for me to get closer to Michael is to kind of become a part of this, a little more of an inner circle. So I would go stay at Michael's house, and one day when he was playing against the New York Knicks, third game, Chicago was down 2-0. They played the first two games in New York City, and so the third game was now going to be in Chicago, and you don't want to lose that third game. You don't want to be down 3-0 in a 7-game series, and this was for the right to go to the World Championships. Anyway, so I'm riding with Michael to the game. I'm in the back seat of his car. He goes through kind of a rough neighborhood. It wasn't the normal way you would drive to, the basketball arena. It just wasn't a normal way to go, and I know Chicago pretty well. We were in the hood, yes, that's it. We were driving through the hood. Anyway, so there were 5 kids standing on the street corner, and Michael pulled, and you could tell that they were there for a purpose. They were waiting for something, and Michael pulled right next up to these young guys, and they were about 12, 13, and 14 years old, right around in that age group. And Michael rolled down the window, and they obviously knew Michael. They said hello. They were talking back and forth. Michael was giving them some advice, gave them some tickets to the game. Sometimes he would give them shoes. Sometimes he'd give them cash. He'd give them money. Sometimes it was just good advice. And these kids were just kids that he just found in the street one day. And throughout his entire career, I didn't understand what was going on other than I thought, this is great. He was talking to these kids on the way to one of the most important basketball games in his life. He stops and talks to these kids, and I just go, wow, that's really cool. Well, then later on, I asked him what it was all about, and he said, oh, those guys, I stop and talk to those kids before every single basketball game that I play in Chicago. And he did it until those kids graduated from high school, and he still is in touch with 2 or 3 of them today. It just says something about how cool he is, and he helped some of those kids, improve their lives and move on, and it was really a great story. So I think it's one of my favorite all-time stories, and it's a true story. I saw it. So.
Wow.
So I think that's further than that.
Any more questions? Sorry.
What's the least favorite Air Jordan you designed and why?
Least favorite? That's the first time anyone's ever asked me that. I'm always asked what's my favorite, and I always struggle with that. God, I don't even know. Probably the 15. You guys agree with that? Yeah, well, evidently a lot of customers did too. It wasn't the best-selling Air Jordan.
Any more questions?
Did you ask me why?
Yeah, I asked you why, 'cause that's my favorite.
It's your favorite? And you set me up, right? He set me up. Okay.
So
well, the reason it's my least favorite is that actually it has nothing to do with what it looks like. It actually, I thought it was one of the shoes in the line over all the years that I didn't think performed as well as I hoped it would. And to me, it just was too stiff in the heel. And admittedly, it was such a weird-looking shoe with a weird collar line and sort of open. It was inspired by the fact that Michael Jordan used to play with his tongue out all the time, and I just thought, well, this would be cool to sort of design a shoe that actually, where the tongue actually sort of folds out like the way he sticks his tongue out. And so that was a kind of a stupid point of inspiration. But
I like it.
And then the press. Well, the press thought, because I had this red stripe in the back, that I had ripped off Prada. So, just the whole thing kind of went south. No. No. There have been lots of products over the years that have used a colored bar to put a logo on. Prada did use a red bar, but at least I don't remember being stealing the Prada mark.
All right, one more question, guys.
Yeah.
You.
Jordan Fusions? I'm not sure I understand the question. Like, that's a good. You guys are being rough on me.
He's
right
gonna
now.
get fired.
It's supposed to be good.
He's gonna get him fired, people.
It's philosophically speaking, I'm all about trying to, blend things, put things together in different ways, and also trying to go forward and take risks and do different things. So I'm pretty cool with it, pretty cool with the fusion idea, and so I'm not, like I said, I don't really work on retros too much. I mean, other people at Nike work on retros. I work on usually statement level shoes that go into the NBA or to the college game, or go together with a special athlete. So I sometimes when they're sort of fall in between any of those areas, I'm not so involved. So I don't have a huge opinion on some of the line. I mean, literally, we Nike and Jordan and I work on Converse, by the way, too. Just so you know, we design about 5,000 new shoes every year, and so I mean I can't be involved in more than 4,000.
All right. So now, guys, this is the time you guys have been waiting for, because I've been waiting for them. I just want to see these boxes. It's time for the raffle of the Jordan Comfort 11s. So, okay, so Tinker's gonna start, pulling the first few.